Hello, I'm Eric Singer. You're listening to Argonne's Public Affairs, Science, and Technology Past Fusion Cell Flash Briefing. Just published research on media monitoring skills entitled, What Do PIOs Know and Where Should We Go? John Silcox is my guest and the author. He is the Communications Director and Public Information Officer for the Fairfax County, Virginia Public Health Department. Thanks, John, for joining us. All right, what prompted this research? In other words, was this a light bulb that went off because of something you encountered, or question mark?
So I really think it came about because I was participating in an a master PIO program through FEMA, and during that course, we had the opportunity to do an observation of a group of advanced PIO students going through a joint information center exercise. And during the exercise, it came up that the students were kind of trying to figure out how to produce a media monitoring report that they could submit as part of the exercise. And it really came to light that a lot of the students, through no fault of their own, just weren't really all that aware of how to put something like that together and what it would contain and what were the areas of media coverage to focus on and how it could help with the public messaging strategies that they were trying to come up with. So as I talked to the instructors for this Master PIO course, they indicated that this was an area that they think there may be a gap and there may need to be some more training and education into. And so I really thought that would make a good basis for doing a research project. And that's sort of where the idea came from.
So how long did the research take, and how did you do it? Did you talk to PIOs, or did you take a different tact?
So I guess the first step in the research was just trying to kind of get a sense of what is already out there in scientific literature, what's out there in the emergency management literature on media monitoring. So I did what a lot of people do when they're involved in a research project. I did a literature review to kind of see what was out there. And didn't find a whole lot specific to media monitoring with respect to public information and with respect to emergency management. And what I did find kind of focused more on how media coverage is sort of shaped and things like that, but not so much on what public information officers need to do in order to monitor that coverage and in order to help inform their public communication strategies and the emergency response activities that might be happening based on that. So, knowing that there seemed to be a little bit of a gap there, I, put together a survey instrument to send out to some networks of PIOs that I'm involved in, both regionally and nationally, to find out what do public information officers know about media monitoring, how often are they doing it, how are they doing it in terms of what tools do they use, and how effective do they think it is, and what could help them in that work. And so I sent that out and got about 186 responses to the survey, which gave me a good amount of kind of baseline information about what public information officers do and what they know. And then I took it a step further and did 5 key informant interviews just to drill down and really find out how are people doing this in real life. How are they going about this work? What tools are they using? And, what training have they had and how effective do they think it's been for them? So the combination of the surveys and the key informant interviews really informed the study. And then from there, I was able to kind of draw some conclusions from that that sort of became the basis for the recommendations I made in the paper. So altogether, I'd say, there was several months of research and putting together the survey instruments and doing the interviews.
That springboards me into my next question, takeaways, lessons learned from the research.
So I think one of the things I learned from the research was that when you query public information officers or folks who work in public affairs, government communications, and related fields, most folks do some level of media monitoring as part of their work. Oftentimes, though, they're doing it with some very basic tools, setting up Google Alerts, scanning news reports, scanning news websites, kind of culling that together and forming sort of a baseline media report from that. The other thing I learned was that a lot of people, when asked, would say that they're somewhat or very skilled at media monitoring. I think over 75% of the respondents indicated that they were somewhat or very skilled at it. But a majority of them, over 75%, indicated that they didn't have any specific training on that particular skill. So it seems to be something that people kind of learn on the job. They kind of figure it out for themselves, and it may not be happening consistently or uniformly across the public information officer community. And so I really think that there is an opportunity there to provide some more specific training on how to do it and do it well, how to use tools that will enable you to do media monitoring maybe into a more substantial degree than what you're doing now, and how you can take the information you learn from that monitoring to help inform some of the communication and public information strategies that go into your communications planning. So I think those are some of the big takeaways from the research, and in some of those takeaways, I recommended that maybe there needed to be a more significant training component that people may need to take as part of advanced or master PIO courses.
You touched upon a lot of good advice. Is there anything extra that you would give to emergency management professionals so they can be better at their job in the future?
Well, I think the thing to take away would be that whenever you're going to be conducting an emergency response where public information and media monitoring is going to need to occur, then you want to make sure that you have people who are designated to do that. And those people need to be experienced. They need to be trained to some degree. So you really need to think about that, who you're putting in those positions. Do they have the requisite experience and skills to do it and do it well? I also think you need to consider whether you need to invest in some tools. Again, a lot of the public information officers that I spoke to or that responded to my survey are not using anything very sophisticated to do this media monitoring, although there are paid tools and paid services out there that can provide a higher level of monitoring. And those tools may be worth the investment if you want to get more information out of the news coverage that you can then take and help shape some of your communication strategies and help inform some situational awareness and operational responses that are happening during the emergency event. So I think the combination of recognizing that you need experienced and trained people in the media monitoring positions in your Joint Information Center, and maybe considering whether it's worth the investment of some monitoring tools that could help them do that more effectively, particularly in a day and age where we have so much news coverage happening all the time on so many different platforms. That would be very difficult for someone to keep up without using some of those more sophisticated tools.
You've given a lot of food for thought, but is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I think the thing I also took away from the study is that public information officers are very adaptable and very flexible, and so they're doing the best with the tools they have, with the resources that they have. And in most cases, I think people are paying attention to it, and that they're trying to incorporate it into their work. And I think if they had a little bit more training, a little bit more some resources that could help guide them a little bit more, I think it would just benefit the whole profession. So I'm hopeful that can happen.
Thanks, John. That was John Silcox, Communications Director and Public Information Officer for the Fairfax County, Virginia Public Health Department. Want to read more best practices for your organization? Like the Argonne Past Fusion Cell Facebook page, or connect on Twitter and Instagram @Past Fusion Cell. Also, check out the Public Affairs Science and Technology Past Fusion Cells online toolkit for useful templates and information. Go to pastfusion.gss.anl.gov.